With more than 2 million downloads, this is your number one source for true crime coverage in America. This is Murder in the Morning with Tony Bruschi and Stacey Cole.
From the Hit Killers Podcast, Murder in the Morning.
We've been talking about the Elijah Vue case here a little bit. This is the 3-year-old little boy who is missing in Wisconsin. The search has now come to an end. On September 13th, Two Rivers Police Chief Benjamin Meinnert confirmed that the skeletal remains discovered on September 7th in a remote wooded area were indeed those of Elijah. The news makes a devastating conclusion to a months-long search that captivated the community of Northeast Wisconsin. It's with a heavy heart that I announced today those remains were identified as Elijah Vue's. He said during a press briefing shared on Facebook, the remains were found by a landowner preparing for hunting season approximately 3 miles northwest of where Elijah was last seen. The area, which has been extensively searched before and described by Meinnert as a thick wooded area. The tragic discovery came after extensive efforts by volunteers and law enforcement who had combed through the marshy areas, riverbanks, and even a cemetery in search for the young boy. An Amber Alert issued for Elijah has, of course, been canceled, and the case has officially now become a death investigation. David Berthiaume, a local resident who assisted in the search, expressed his frustration and sorrow. Quote, "There won't be closure for me until we know who killed him and who put him there." He said, nothing killed him back there in those woods. He was killed and put there. Elijah reported missing on February 20th. At the time, his mother, Katrina Bauer, was in Wisconsin Dells while her boyfriend Jesse Vang was at his residence on Meinnert Road in Two Rivers. Vang reported Elijah missing, claiming he had fallen asleep and awoken to find him gone. Both Vang and Bauer have been charged with child neglect, and Vang faces additional felony charges. They both have pled guilty. In April, it was reported that Bauer had left Elijah with Vang for extended periods as a form of discipline, a claim outlined in a criminal complaint. The background has further complicated the case, as the circumstances of Elijah's disappearance and death came under greater scrutiny. Two Rivers resident Ron Randall, who lives near where Elijah's remains are found, shared his anguish, saying, "It's just really tough. You don't expect something like this to hit so close to home. It's too close to home." And we have some other text messages here you'd sent, correct? When over here?
Yeah, they're just awful. Investigators found a deleted photo on Bauer's phone from Valentine's Day of all days, showing Elijah blindfolded and with visible bruising on his face, neck, and arm while lying on a bed. The text messages between Vang and Bauer reveal some troubling details. It said Vang had given Elijah a cold shower after the child overfilled his diaper, because that's totally in his control. That's my commentary, by the way. On the 18th of February, Vang texted Bauer saying, "I'm making sure he hates me and being here." And Bauer responded, "Don't want him to hate you, just fear you." Vang replied, "He did fear me, but he didn't respect me. Now I'm making him respect me."
Yeah.
So this is an open and shut case as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I mean, they got to piece it together, but this is horrible. This is generational trauma. This probably has something to do with, culture as well, and how people are brought up, and what was considered the norm or expected or acceptable for years. And now you have people that are having children that were, and we've had this for a long time, people who had parents that were like that, where like, you're going to respect me, and just very harsh, very, dumbass type parenting, domineering. But that's how, unfortunately, a lot of people parented for a very, very long time. And then suddenly you're charged with being a parent. What do? Well, you're going to end up a lot of times going back to the way you were, brought up. But people a lot of times don't take a step back and go, okay, yeah, that's what that person did to me. How do I feel about them now? Do you love them? Do you respect them? Or did you just fear them? And then you kept yourself out of trouble strictly on fear and never got a chance to develop the sort of skills that you need to in a healthy, loving relationship with a parent. And you end up with far more trauma that way than you do any other way. So I can just see where this is. It's probably how he was brought up, probably treated the exact same way by his father or whoever was raising him. And I'm going to guess just repeating the fucking cycle.
Yeah.
Not in any way to excuse it, but it's the reality, unfortunately, where people go, well, it's how I was raised. And yeah, well, was it the good way? What did it really work for you? And how does it apply to today's world? Because we're in different times.
We are in different times. And one thing that really concerns me is this is your child. So Elijah's mom was allowing somebody, and not that it's okay if the perpetrator was a relative, it's not okay, but it seems very foreign to me to allow a non-relative to enforce any punishment on a child. It brings into play, the whole step parent thing. What can a step parent really do? I mean, I guess to me, it just depends. This was a young child, but you're allowing somebody else to abuse your child. And not that it should just be you and your thing, but that's quite a disconnect from the parental role, I think.
What I'm going to guess is happening here is there was a conversation. There's probably some sort of disciplinary issues, and mom's talking to him, and I'll set him straight. I'll do it, and then sounds all domineering, and she's dumb enough to let him. And that's just how it went. It's probably not that complicated. We're just talking very not intelligent parents that know pretty much, black and white thinking, and that's about it. There's no gray area, and probably, laziness here. Like I don't know what else to do. Well, they're 3. It's a 3-year-old. Okay. So 3-year-olds are going to act up. That's what they do. It's not like you're dealing with a 13-year-old. I mean, if you can't handle the fucking 3-year-old, wait till that age. It's like, it sounds like parents who were inconvenienced of the fact that a human being is there and did not want to take the time to parent correctly. So let's make the child fear you. Like, how about they respect you? You get more out of them that way than fearing you. But again, you go back to parents like this and you go, that's all they know too. That's sometimes the only way that some of these people are staying on track or they're not really on track. This is how they're going. And in no way am I saying that this is an okay thing to do, because it never is. But if you're trying to examine the person of what brought them to do it, probably years of their own abuse.
I'm sure that's true and a really good explanation of it. But it also makes me wonder, what is it about you that you can't step back and say, this doesn't feel right. I can't imagine that abuse feels right. I mean, I would think there would have to be some guilt. Yeah. Maybe I'm just assuming.
You'd hope.
At some point, do you step back and say, I need some help? I'm not doing this right.
Not if they don't believe they're wrong.
Ugh.
And some people's paradigm is so fucked up that they do not see it as wrong. They see that this is just normal. This is how it goes. This is how I was raised. This is how my family, my brothers, sisters. I'm just completely speculating here. But when your prism is that fucked up, you don't see it. You don't see and I'm in no way dismissing this behavior. I think he should be tied up and dropped in a hole, and then let's pour some lighter fluid down it and a couple matches. I'm totally cool with that. But if you take a look at the systematic abuse that probably went on here to create this person, there's a lot of that out there, and it's education. It's I'm not saying need more school, but it certainly does help. But education on parenting, on how to handle things and how to break cycles, and how to recognize that just because your parents did it doesn't mean you should too, even if you survived it.
Yeah. Honestly, I've brought it up before, but I didn't have kids because my dad was really fucked in the head.
Yeah.
And I was just I saw like my cousins, and they're not abusive people, but some of my cousins, not all of them, they're not right.
Mhm.
So I just kind of looked at the genetic tree and went, well, it stops here with me. My brothers had kids, but I'm not going to have any because I just don't want to put that out into the universe.
Yeah.
It stops with me. And I think I sort of got myself fixed along the way. And, but I guess not everybody turns and takes a look at themselves. They spend a lot of time blaming. So it's an evolution. And
most people go through life.
It just depends.
Never taking a look at themselves. I mean, that's most people. That's like, well, that's just how they are. You're like, yeah, I guess it is.
I never buy that. I want people to step back and even if things are going well, step back and take a look. How did you get there? So that, in the future, when things become foggy because you've got so many things coming at you, you know exactly how to go down that path, because life is going to get sticky and ugly at some point. So you've got to know what your strategy is, what your game plan is. And to me, that's knowing yourself, knowing where your limitations and your boundaries are, what is going to push you over the fucking edge, and be ready for it.
That's it right there. They have limitations and boundaries, and some people are just simply not capable,
I guess,
of taking that look at themselves. They're just not. And that's how their brains work. And then you get reckless and horrible behavior. I mean, we're in a place in this world where you could easily learn how to be a good parent and what works, what doesn't work, what strategy. I mean, and at least be able to recognize that this shit is not okay. But we live in a world where people don't take advantage of any of those things. And look, there's low IQs. There's just stupid people. There's just people that don't have that ability. I mean, I look at it almost like, why can't you hear? Well, they're deaf. They're literally deaf. Like they can't hear or they can't see, whatever. Like it's a deficit that I think some people just don't have. They don't have empathy. They don't have that ability to look in on themselves. They were either never taught it or do not have the mental capability to understand something that complex. I mean, just completely, just eludes them because it's not something that they have. Don't know in this case. Plenty of people do have it that still do horrible things. But, yeah, it's a scary world.
You're neck deep in a dark, twisted tale. And just as the tension peaks, bam, a commercial about some miracle diet pill breaks the spell. It's like finding a fly in your soup after the first bite. But here's the fix. True Crime Today Premium Plus on Apple Podcasts. You get to enjoy your crime stories without the junk. Ad-free episodes, extended interviews that go beyond the surface, and early access to all the gruesome details. It's like swapping out a can of cheap beer for a glass of fine whiskey. So search for True Crime Today Premium Plus on Apple Podcasts. Subscribe and keep the darkness flowing uninterrupted.